Netflix has issued an update to its corporate culture memo saying that they will no longer censor. And if you are offended by this, perhaps Netflix is not the right place for you. Now, I immediately see many people who are anti-woke and anti-censorship saying, this is amazing. People should be allowed to express their ideas, and it's good news. The woke are getting pushed back upon. Cancel culture is getting shut down. So you think. It's not all good news, but it is somewhat good news. There are many instances in which wokeness is being curtailed. But what's happening now with Netflix is not all good, because Netflix also publishes things that I think are morally reprehensible. Some things I think should be censored. Now, when I say anti-censorship, typically you mean like, hey, information shouldn't be stopped. People should be allowed to consume it. What if that information is, I don't know, a book describing adult activities to children? Perhaps in that case, there should be someone who says, hey, that's not okay. So the reality is some censorship is actually good. Most of us would agree with this. You take a look at what's going on in schools right now, and things are getting bad. So while it may be good that Dave Chappelle will be allowed to do his comedy special, what does this really mean for the bigger picture? Well, I still think when it comes to opposing wokeness, standing up for freedom and liberty are winning. The cult of the left is losing dramatically. And with some of the news coming out, I think we're going to see a major red tsunami. Perhaps, we used to say red wave. A red wave, it's like a bunch of Republicans are going to win. Now we started saying red tsunami. I got to say, after seeing everything I've seen so far, I'm thinking it may be more akin to like a great flood. It may be Democrats desperately trying to cling to an ark because the planet is going to flood in some great disaster. That's how crazy things are getting. We have this new story. It's about a mother who was shocked to find out that her 13-year-old child was charged with sexual harassment under Title IX for refusing to use trans pronouns. Aaron McIntyre on Twitter says the soft power they used against your children to introduce these concepts will soon become hard power. It is. Kids are being charged because they wouldn't say pronouns. The kid yelled, we have a constitutional right. You can't make us say things. The kid's correct. But this is what happens when you don't push back. So again, the Netflix story is big. It sort of alludes to the Dave Chappelle controversy, which we can be cool with. But it may also be alluding to the cuties controversy. I suppose I can say this. Most people at Netflix were probably okay with cuties because they're creepy weirdos. There was a guy who got fired from Netflix, an executive, because he was like, these are words that are offensive, don't say them. And they were like, but you said them to tell us not to say them. So they fired him, seriously. If the issue was that 90% of employees at Netflix were opposing the film Cuties, and Netflix was like, we're not going to censor anything, I'd be like, that's bad. But most of them are trying to get Dave Chappelle pulled. And so Netflix is actually, yes, pushing back on the woke. I only bring up the Cuties thing because you need to keep in mind the nuance in this battle. Some stuff should be kept away from children's eyes. And some things should not be. Some things are appropriate for kids and some things aren't. We've got a lot going on. The FBI is investigating parents who are pushing back against the indoctrination in schools. The culture of the United States has bifurcated some time ago, and the left is absolutely lying about what's going on. And it's creepy. When you see all of these Democrats vote in lockstep to fund the war in Ukraine, you just know something, it's a cult. It's just, I find it laughable when these people are like, these Donald Trump supporters are all in some cult and they're all brainwashed. And I'm like, they're voting, their votes are split. They don't even agree with each other. The Republican side. Democrats like AOC voting for war? Really amazing from someone who is supposedly anti-war left. Let's get started. Here's what I want to do. I want to show you what's going on with Netflix and some good news. Florida. Recently, a lawsuit was dismissed against DeSantis. They're like, he can go after Disney. You can't do anything about it. Some people have pushed back on the right saying DeSantis and the Republicans should not have gone after Disney, but let's talk about that. Because I think DeSantis is doing the right thing. And I'm going to show you what's really going on with what's happening in schools. And I think it's time to start paying attention why we need to push back. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com and become a member to help support the work we do. These videos are journalists, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast. Just click the sign up button, and you can easily become a member. But there's another reason you should become a member. I want to show you this. This is PR Newswire. Journalist Tim Pool chooses the Rumble cloud over AWS. Today, Rumble announced that journalist and podcaster Tim Pool has moved hosting for his company, Timcast Media, to the Rumble cloud. Pool, a successful podcaster and journalist famous for covering Occupy Wall Street, has amassed millions of subscribers on YouTube and other streaming platforms. Pool's Timcast Media covers breaking news, politics, culture. Timcast's movement to the Rumble cloud follows Rumble's successful hosting of Truth Social. And I said, I'm excited to join Rumble. It's one step in utilizing and building more resilient infrastructure for communication amid the culture war and mass censorship. I am not just complaining about this. I am putting my money where my mouth is. I say it, I do it. And for all of you who are members, you are doing something as well. Not only are you helping me say these things and point out what's happening, good news and bad, your money as a member funds the infrastructure that goes to companies like Rumble. Are they perfect? No, they're not. I've questioned them on their TOS. But this competition is working. Disney is recoiling. Netflix, the only reason they put out this memo is because they feel the burn. Because we are standing up and saying, you know what? I want to watch a movie. How about I fund the Daily Wire? Netflix goes, no. We just lost how much money and how many users? Get rid of the weird wokeness. No more censorship. We need content. They can feel the heat. That's what we bring when we put our money where our mouth is. Support companies like Rumble. Support companies like Timcast. We use their infrastructure for our video player and for hosting the website, and we've got more changes on the way. I can't announce everything immediately for security reasons, but once we get these changes up and running, we are going to brag all day and night. We're getting away from big tech. If they want to play these stupid games and indoctrinate kids, we move away from it. We find ways to fund. We find ways to build this alternative infrastructure. Smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show. Let's read this first story. Netflix adds anti-censorship section to corporate culture memo. If you'd find it hard to support our content breadth, Netflix may not be the best place for you. Oh, you'll love to hear it. They're basically like, yo, if you got a problem, get out. Streaming giant Netflix revised its company culture guidelines for the first time in 5 years to seek excellence. This includes asking employees to demonstrate fiscal responsibility and embrace anti-censorship practices. The document was originally a 125-slide presentation created by co-founder Reed Hastings in 2009 to regulate the company without a traditional corporate structure. Netflix's culture focuses on employee decision-making, candid feedback, and maintaining a dream team standard. Now titled, Netflix Culture Seeking Excellence. The guidance has been updated seemingly to support the company following a period of poor performance. The platform added spending members' money wisely to its valued behavior section, urging employees to prioritize the company's financial bottom line after reporting it lost roughly 200,000 subscribers during the first fiscal quarter of 2022. The news included in the company's April financial report marks the first time in over a decade the service has lost customers. Shares in Netflix fell 25% following the report's publication. You know what? I don't have Netflix. Now, people here do have Netflix. I'm not going to tell people to cancel all of your Netflix and cancel your Disney or whatever. And to my past positions, they have changed. You know, I remember before, Hulu did something about cultural appropriation, and I said, I'm not going to cancel everything because of some dumb tweet. Later, I was like, you know what? I'm going to cancel. And now I'm just like, you know what I've realized? I was wrong on both parts. We need to build alternatives. That's what we need to do. You can't tell someone who loves Spider-Man to cancel their Disney because they want to watch Spider-Man. And they're going to say, I really like watching Spider-Man. Okay, I get it. You know what we're going to do? We're going to make alternatives to inspire a younger generation. All of this cultural stuff that's coming out, it's trash. When I was young, we had The Craft. You ever see The Craft? I remember the 4 high school girls, north, west, south, east, they call upon whatever, and they cast magic spells. And it was like, oh, whatever. It's not like the greatest movie ever, but that it's like occult stuff. Now we have a remake of it. And the remake of it is all woke. It has nothing to do with magic other than they cast a spell to make a bully gay, I guess, which is kind of weird. Or to make him fall in love with the girl. Maybe he was already gay, or no, I think they made him gay. I don't know. The movie made no sense. Culture is not being built properly. It's being built ideologically. So if people like Thor, he's been around for a long time. I understand why they'd like him. But what they're doing is they're taking these cartoon characters, these comic book characters, these movies, remaking them, and they're basically wearing our culture as a skin suit. Well, they're making money off it. We need to make alternatives. We need to make new culture. We can't just keep rebooting, remaking, re-singing, whatever. So I'll tell you what we're doing over at Timcast. We got our shows here. Cast Castle Vlog, Tales from the Inverted World, Pop Culture Crisis. We're going as fast as we can. We're like 30 employees. We're trying to get bigger. We're also working on a bunch of music. I believe we'll be able to release an EP, probably have 6 songs in the next month or so, and making some changes to our creative approach to it due to some external factors. I'll leave it at that. We want to make this culture. Netflix is feeling the burn. Good. Instead of telling people to just drop Netflix, they won't. They leave and they come right back. We make alternatives. When we do, people then leave. I genuinely believe a large reason they lost subscribers is because alternatives are starting to emerge. People can go to Rumble and get free content. They can go to Daily Wire. They got a couple movies there. And so you're now seeing people saying, I'm out. Netflix feels heat. And they say, how do we reverse this? We're experiencing pain. Regular people don't care about wokeness. People are starting to quit because they don't like what we're doing. That's it. Take a look at this story from Yahoo. Florida's suit against DeSantis over Disney fight is thrown out. Well, there you go. A federal judge threw out a lawsuit by 3 Florida residents who claim Governor Ron DeSantis trampled Walt Disney's freedom of speech. Okay, maybe. Let's have an argument. Let's talk about it. Ron DeSantis says Disney should not have come out and said, we're going to get this law overturned. That's political, and a company shouldn't be doing that. Company's allowed to speak. So a bunch of Republicans got together and said, we're going to punish you for doing it. I agree with it. I like it. I think the one thing government can do is diminish the power wielded against the people, right? Now, this one's tough, I guess, because you have a lot of people who like what Disney was doing. Me personally, I don't, and maybe that's my bias. But the way I see it is this. Disney is a massive multinational corporation. They were given a ton of tax breaks and privileges, and they could even build their own nuclear power plant if they wanted to. Why does a corporation have such power? So when they say, you know what, we're going to rescind that, I'm like, I don't care why they rescind it. I don't care if one day they wake up and said, we're taking back Disney's power. Do it. I don't think the government should have untold power too, but the reality is the government is a big mishmash. It is hard to move within government. It is not as big of a power in some ways as corporations. I think they're both in many ways powerful. And we need a check on government. But here's what we're going to do to get our check on government. We're going to see the red tsunami in November. I'm not saying Republicans are going to save you. You need to get out in those primaries. They're happening now. We need people like Robbie Starbuck in Tennessee to win. Hopefully his lawsuit succeeds and he gets back on the ballot. They're trying to cheat him, claiming he's not a real Republican, so he can't be on the ballot. I say no to that. We need to win the primaries so populists who like America, who reject the wokeness, get into office. Now, I'll tell you what else this means. There are some things I disagree with that these conservatives want. Triage. Seriously. You think I'm going to vote for the Democrats simply because, I might be more liberal on certain policy issues? Why? They're insane. When it comes to the issue of choice or abortion, I have one side saying ban it, one side saying no limit, 3rd trimester, 9-month abortion. I'm like, I got to be honest, if I'm going to pick a side, it's going to be the one saying don't do that. So you think I'm going to support Democrats over that? I'll tell you what. If they're going after kids, they are, I'm going to side with the group that's saying let's not go after kids. I don't have Seamus Coughlin of Freedom Tunes, who's Catholic, arguing in favor of schools mandating Bible study. He's just not arguing. He's saying we shouldn't have critical race theory in schools. I'm like, I agree with that. And he's religious. So why? I don't care. If you believe in critical race theory, that's good for you. But you shouldn't put it in praxis in these lessons. If you're LGBTQIA+, LGBTQIA2+, something, I don't care. You do your thing. But if you want to start indoctrinating kids, we've got ourselves a problem. This is why we need to push back. Let me show you this. A lot of people are saying it's good what's happening with Netflix, but hold on there a minute. They actually mention over at Deadline, let me just do a search for this. Take a look at this. Another newly updated section called Artistic Expression indirectly references recent controversies over titles like Cuties or Dave Chappelle's special. Entertaining the world is an amazing opportunity and also a challenge because viewers have very different tastes and points of view. The section says, ratings, content warnings, and parental controls are all tools aimed at helping subscribers avoid content that may not like. Not everyone will like or agree with everything on our service. While every title is different, we approach them based on a set of principles. We support the artistic expression of the creators we choose to work with. Okay, therein lies the problem. Yes, they're going to try and defend Dave Chappelle. I think that's what it's mostly about. Why run Cuties at all? No, seriously. The issue I have with Cuties is that to make the film, they had little girls do sexually suggestive dancing. To make the film, they trained real life little girls to do these things. That's abuse. People are like, but the film opposes these things. They're criticizing it. I was like, great. Then don't train children to act in a film in such a way to make your point. You can't be like, I think drugs are bad and we need to make sure kids don't get them. So I gave crack to a 10-year-old and filmed him smoking it to make a movie where I'm like, look how bad that is. That makes no sense. Don't do it. So Netflix wants to put that up? Yeah. Netflix employees weren't complaining about that. And if they do say blanket defense of artistic expression, that means Big Mouth and Cuties will remain. Big Mouth is another really disgusting show. I have no idea how these shows are on the air. I tell you, if the left is trying to make this that being conservative means you don't want kids exposed to this kind of stuff, that's a weird hill to die on. Because I don't think that's conservative. I think that's just like human nature. But here we go. Take a look at where we're at. Sexual harassment investigation launched into 3 middle schoolers' wrong use of pronouns. This is the indoctrination that's happening. So seeing Netflix say, okay, we're not going to censor, it's good news. Dave Chappelle pushes back when he mocks this stuff. Joe Rogan does as well. We need at least an equal playing field. Fine, you want to have your weird cutie stuff? I will continually advocate against it. I will tell people to build alternatives against you, Netflix, and maybe the left will do the same thing. Fine. Then we'll see this. This one's pretty funny. Truth Social begins hiring producers for its non-woke MAGA challenger to Netflix and Disney Plus as it expands its empire into video streaming. Okay, yeah, well, good for them. Good. I mean, more competition, the better, right? I don't know if I'm going to be watching Truth Social Media. I'll tell you what I think. I'm hanging out with the Daily Wire guys a couple weeks ago, and they're all wearing suits and button-ups, and, I have a button-up, but it's not buttoned up, and I'm wearing jeans and a beanie because I'm like on the left, but right-leaning in terms of like what a left-leaning person would actually look like. So I'm like center-left, but the right side of the left quadrant. You know what I mean? Actually, we're looking at doing marketing for the show, and Chicago is our biggest area by region, the biggest demographic by region. And I was like, I think if you grew up in Chicago, you would be a liberal by American standards. But if you watched me, you would be as conservative as a Chicagoan would be, but you're still basically a liberal. And so I'm like, I have the button up with the collar, but I think we need that. I think we need, which ultimately makes me like moderate for most of the country. I think it's cool that Trump is doing this, but I do think we need regular, moderate content that's not left or right. And it's just like, freedom, do your thing, live and let live. I think that's good. I think what Trump is doing, I think what Rumble and all these other companies are doing is good. Competition is great. If we don't, you will get this. This story is important about these kids because this is soft power becoming hard power, as Orrin McIntyre mentioned. An investigation was launched into 3 middle school students in Wisconsin accused of calling classmates by their wrong pronoun. Look, this kid says, we have a constitutional right not to use the pronouns. You can't make him say things. This mom gets a phone call and they're like, your kids are being charged under Title IX. They're being with sexual harassment for using the wrong pronouns. And I'm just like, kid's right. You cannot compel speech. You can't. But this is what happens. Here we go. This is the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty urging the school to drop its Title IX complaint for 8th graders using incorrect pronouns. Just absolutely insane, isn't it? Well, this is what happens. The FBI is investigating multiple parents who protested education policies, contradicting A.G. Garland's testimony. Did he lie under oath? I don't know. I don't know if he was under oath when he testified, but they are. Let me show you what's happening in your schools. Let's talk about this right here. We got some libs of TikTok for you. This queer surgeon performs gender-affirming mastectomies on adolescent females. He brags about it. That's sex change surgery, a component of it. Let me explain something. If a teen girl is dysphoric and, you say, okay, we're going to give you top surgery, they call it. That's irreversible. She will never then develop breasts. But if you wait and say, how about we wait till you're 18? There's no negative impact. I mean, there's none. You can get a mastectomy at any age. You can't reverse it ever. So why have children be getting this? Young adults and adolescents with supportive parents, they can wait a few years and then they can make a decision when they're adults. See, it's weird, isn't it? Here we go. Libs of TikTok says, looks like an ad for homeschooling. And it's an individual with the Black Lives Matter flag and some kind of, like rainbow stuff in the background. You should homeschool your kids. The Daily Caller says, Maryland Elementary School invites kids to pledge allegiance to pride flag. Okay. Look, if you want your kid doing this stuff, that's your choice as your parent. Montgomery County Public Schools, Cedar Grove Elementary announced the school will be celebrating love, respect, and tolerance via video compilation of students holding pride flags and saying love, respect, freedom, tolerance, equality, and pride. I will be recording these video segments during recess at school. The video compilation will be uploaded to our school YouTube channel. However, no names will be attached to the video. Really pledging allegiance to it? They're not really pledging allegiance. When I was younger, I didn't pledge allegiance. Every day at school, they'd say, everybody stand up, put your hand on your heart, and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I remember saying it when I was a kid. And then I remember being told, you don't have to pledge allegiance to anybody. And I said, okay, well then let's see what happens. And so they'd say, all rise for the pledge of the national anthem. And I'd sit down and I'd be like, nope. And you know what happened? Nothing. I'm not a fan of pledging allegiance to the flag. I do think that's weird. Whatever. I don't mind the national anthem. I don't know if we did the national anthem every day in school. We might have. I don't mind the national anthem. I don't mind patriotism. I don't mind something where you come in, you say, you know what I think? I think the Pledge of Allegiance is stupid because it doesn't actually explain anything to the kids. You don't learn anything, right? I think this is another form of the same thing. I'm not a fan of either of it. I don't want public schools saying, okay, everybody, we're going to have Bible study, but don't tell your parents. I'm not a fan of that. I'm not for the same reason. You know what I would like? I'd like it if every day there was something where it was like civics, the reason why we defend ourselves. And we talk about, in school, we talk about what happens when you have no community, when your culture breaks down, why we should support each other, why we believe in the flag, what the flag represents. Pledging allegiance to it is just mindless. I guess some people it works for them, some people it doesn't. Teacher who joked about pledging allegiance to pride flag faces backlash. I believe she was actually removed. So interesting. Now, she was actually saying to pledge. I think this story from the caller is a bit more hyperbolic, as it were. But there's more. Colorado Middle School reportedly invited students to secret LGBTQ club and then told the kids to lie to their parents. I'm bringing this up because the grooming is real. And it's not just in the schools. It's on Netflix. It's in our media. It's on Disney. We need to compete. How do you compete with schools? Well, it's easy. You homeschool your kids. You get them out of these places. John Hopkins Abuse Center, Child Abuse, hires trans professor who is forced to resign for defending pedos as minor attracted persons. If you're not paying attention to what's going on, these people are going to get your kids in secret. They're going to groom them and tell them things to cause them severe psychological harm. And they're going to tell them to lie to you. In New Jersey, that's the case. In New Jersey, they can't tell parents if a kid is experiencing some kind of dysphoria, dysmorphia, or trauma. And I think it's on purpose to sever the tie between parent and child. And then ultimately what you'll end up with is a broken system that is a new generation that doesn't know how to thrive. From Timcast.com. Texas Supreme Court rules that the state may conduct abuse investigations into parents of transgender children. Man, this one's tough. I don't always blame the parents. I blame a lot of the schools. I mean, imagine there's a family with a trans kid, and it's because of the school, and because the school told the kid to lie. And so the state then investigates the family, and the family has no idea. So maybe they'll be let off the hook. These schools are indoctrinating your kids. You know, I tweeted earlier, I wonder how many people throughout history who died of suicide were secretly trans, but there were no surgeries or hormone replacement. And it confused a lot of people. And like, my point is, these things didn't exist 100 years ago. Hormones were first isolated, I believe, in the beginning of the 1900s. And estrogen, I think, was isolated in the 60s. Birth control was like the first thing they made from it. And then, not just estrogen, I think it's something else. It might be progesterone or something. But hormone replacement therapy is new because we had to invent these procedures and isolate these hormones, which we did. So I think it's certainly possible there are people who are gender dysphoric in the past, and there was nothing for them to do. It didn't exist. So they didn't go around being trans. Maybe you could say they were trans, but no one knew. Maybe they took their own lives. Maybe there is a social component. Maybe if you know something can happen, then you start to focus on it. What I mean to say, I suppose, is I think it's possible, nay, probable, many people are only trans today because of the prominence of the discussion. I think there are many kids who are probably just depressed who are saying they're trans because they're depressed and don't understand. Rapid onset gender dysphoria, where kids feel pressured and want to fit in, and so they adopt trans. They say they're trans, and maybe they're not. Here's the thing about being LGB, lesbian, gay, or bi. Those aren't permanent changes to your body that will destroy you. If you're, female, teenager, you've post-puberty, and now all of a sudden you're having feelings towards women, I understand if the parents are like, well, be happy, be attracted to that, be safe. Because even if this person then says, you know what, I was wrong, those feelings weren't true, nothing permanent has been done to them. But when you have people saying they're doing surgeries on children, it's permanent. Now, maybe we deviated a little bit. The reason I bring this up is the cultural changes at places like Netflix will precipitate changes in schools and in individuals. If these teachers who are grooming kids, I'm not saying every teacher, if the specific ones who are, start to feel shunned or ostracized, they will stop. They will hide. They will quit. They will stop doing this. We need to make sure we assert it is not acceptable. We need to make sure that we support alternative infrastructure. Companies like Rumble, for instance, are one opportunity. We need to make sure we say, we will not tolerate this. We will vote all of these people out, and we will restore balance and the rule of law. Then, the cultists will be like, maybe we shouldn't do that because we're going to be shunned or exiled. Many people who are marching in lockstep with the cult, they think it's what's popular. They think it's what people want and what people like. I think it's a manipulation from social media. I think you have deranged, dangerous psychopaths like Vijaya Gadde at Twitter who cries when she finds out Elon Musk is taking over because she's using that machine to manipulate and try and indoctrinate people. They're trying to mold society in the way they see fit, destroying our values of freedom, liberty, and personal responsibility. What they would prefer is a bunch of entitled people who believe everything is owed to them, who will live in the metaverse, eat the bugs, and live in the pod. What they don't want are people who want to get a nice piece of land, grow their own food, and live a life free from these systems of oppression. They want you under the boot. They want you to experience pain so they can be the ones the only ones who can solve it. If they cause mental strife within children, and these kids grow up feeling this anguish, they can then say, only we can help you. And that's the cycle they will create. Here's what I want. I want strong, resilient people who can stand up for themselves. I want people who are able to be responsible. I want people who find strength from within and find the way to thrive. I think it's fascinating. You know, I talked with Ian the other night on the members only show at Timcast IRL about economic slavery. That's what he said, economic slavery. And I just take such issue with that. We are the wealthiest generation. Well, not our personal generation. Boomers have more wealth than us. But like the United States, we are wealthy. We have choice. We can go live as our ancestors did if we so choose. It's not as easy. I mean, they just went off in the wilderness, killed people, took over land or whatever. What I mean is, for the most part, you can live in the wilderness and set up your hippie tribe in the United States. Ain't nobody stopping you. I know you'll need some rights to whatever land you have, but getting an acre is not expensive. Go to the middle of Nebraska, find an acre of land for $1,000. I'm not even kidding. Or a couple acres. Bring your 12 or 15 hippies and start farming and start working. And you can get away from economic slavery, from wage slavery, and do all those things. The problem is, right now, we have an entitled generation. I am owed these things. No, you're not. And we have the woke cult that says we need to steal these institutions to empower ourselves to control everything. Instead of making their own socialist commune, they say, give me all your stuff so I can turn it into one. No. Our community and our culture built this. We want to preserve the ideas of meritocracy, liberty, and personal responsibility, and communal responsibility as well within there as well, to make sure that we can make this a better place. Texas Supreme Court. I think it's good they're going after abuse. They're investigating this stuff for abuse. I think many parents have Munchausen syndrome by proxy. They're abusing their kids, and we need to investigate whether children are being abused. There are challenges, however. What if the state says religiously devout children, we should investigate that for abuse? Well, I can pause there and say, if a parent wants to indoctrinate their kid to gender ideology, well, that's the parent. If the parent wants to give surgery, okay, well, now you've got abuse. I'm not seeing Christian parents giving their kids surgeries over their religion. Now, we can talk about circumcision, I suppose, but that's like a cultural norm, and maybe we do away with it. The doctors are doing it. Maybe we say no, whatever. But if you're talking about a 15-year-old girl getting her breasts surgically removed permanently, maybe we should not do that. Maybe that is abuse. It's good news on the Netflix front to a certain degree. I mean, it's inching towards good news. Let's have a good weekend, push back, and keep up the fight. Thanks for supporting us. Next segment's coming up at 8 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimcastIRL. We'll see you all then.